but maybe for someone who didn't know anything about you, Denise, and didn't know anything about Razzamataz, perhaps you could give a bit of a background on sort of your journey up until maybe your journey as a person, and then the first formation of the first ever sort of Razzamataz, perhaps.
Yeah, so I was born in a little place called Renfrew, and I was brought up in a 2-bedroom council flat, 6 of us. My mum and dad didn't have much money, bless them. There was 4 children, and actually I always have a laugh about this now, because for the first 10 years of my life, my bedroom was an airing cupboard, and it was actually an airing cupboard shared with my sister.
Wow.
I think my dad had taken the door off the hinges, so there was no door and there was no TV or anything. You literally could get 2 bunk beds, a set of bunk beds in there. So I didn't do dancing from a young age because my mum and dad just couldn't afford it. They didn't have the money, but I was the youngest child. So as my siblings were all getting a bit older, my mum managed to sort of scrape together enough money to get me to dance class, and seen an advert in the paper looking for young dancers. So just went along, not really thinking that seriously about it, because I actually loved my hockey and netball at the time. I've always loved fitness of any type. So hockey, netball, athletics was my thing. But I went along, long story short, absolutely fell in love with dance and went to gymnastics as well. It became a massive passion of mine. It gave me so much confidence in myself, and increased my self-esteem. And I think just when you find something that you're good at, and when teachers are encouraging you, it's so important. We're so blessed to have that role as a teacher and a role model, because you can have such a massive influence and impact in a young person's life. Which my teachers had on me. I then I didn't go to university. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to dance, but I didn't know if that was going to happen. I went to Performing Arts College in Essex, because I got a scholarship, but I completely underestimated the amount of money, to live in Essex as well. So I ended up leaving there, dropping out of that, and I got my first professional dance job, and it just sort of spiraled from there. I'd done summer seasons, I'd done a world cruise, so I travelled the world. I was so lucky to get paid to do something that I love and see in the world, because I love travel as well. I performed at the Palladium in the West End. I was doing trapeze for the Millennium Dome show, which is now the O2 Arena. So I had a really brilliant career. I got no regrets at all, did everything. But at 26, I started feeling old, and that's, it's a bit like a footballer's career. You start thinking, what next? And I wanted to give back. I knew how performing arts had literally changed my life. So I wanted to give back and started up the first theatre school. Razzamataz was born in Penrith in the year 2000. And the reason I did a theatre school, not a dance school, was because I almost got into Starlight Express and I almost got into fame because I can do flips and tricks. But I didn't really have any confidence when it came to the singing and the dance. And the industry was changing. Everyone had to become what we call a triple threat. So you might be a dancer, but you still have to be able to act and sing. So I set up the theatre school because it offers all 3 disciplines. And I set it up in Penrith when I still had about 3 or 4 other jobs. Then I expanded myself. So on a Monday, I was in Dumfries. Tuesday, I was in West Cumbria. Wednesday, I was in Glasgow. Thursday, I was in Paisley. Friday, I used to travel back from Scotland back down to Cumbria. Saturday morning, I went to Kendo early in the morning. Then I came back to do Carlisle on Saturday afternoon. And then I would do Keswick on a Sunday. I didn't like a day off. I hated a day off. I was never very good at having time off. And then, so that's Monday to Sunday. I had ran out of days of the week. I couldn't create another day. So, and I knew what good we were doing for young people. So I looked into franchising, and I took a bit of a risk because you don't really know if someone's going to want to buy into your brand. Although my teachers were loving it, my students were loving it. I had ran some at-length pilots to prove that the business could run without me. And so I remortgaged my little flat at the time I joined the BFA straight away, the British Franchise Association. I engaged my solicitor, that's still my solicitor today. She's amazing, and she wrote my franchise agreement. and I engaged a consultant to do my first operations manual, which has obviously changed a little bit since then. So that was it. We were off and we sold the first 3 franchises quite quickly internally with teachers that were, moving to Derby or, moving to Edinburgh and wanted their own school. Then I used to watch Dragon's Den after Razzamataz actually on a Tuesday night, and I just loved the programme. And I had an idea, so I applied. I didn't actually apply with Razzamataz. I applied with another idea that I had for still performing arts, but it was a game. But because I didn't have a prototype ready and they looked at my business, they encouraged me to come on. So in 2007, I appeared on Dragon's Den, and Duncan Bannatyne invested, and he was an investor for 7 years. That obviously catapulted us into the limelight. We became the honey, the big brands were approaching us. We worked with TUI for 12 years. And we've expanded now. We've always had a plan to expand steadily, not aggressively. Personally, I was also becoming a mum. For the first time, I was actually expecting my first child in Dragon's Den, but I didn't realise until I got home. So I've had 2 children in that period as well. So we're now 22 years this year, and we're heading towards 60 franchisees. We've got a brilliant network. They're all really, really supportive of each other. And I think that is down to the support and nurturing and not growing too aggressively, and making sure that you can support the franchisees that you're bringing on board, and you don't just bring people on board and then think who's going to support them afterwards. So, and we've got lots of exciting things in the pipeline for principals and our students. We're going back to, obviously, COVID was terrible for everyone for all sorts of reasons. The kids, I mean, if I was 12 and someone took dance away from me, I'd have been devastated. So thankfully we could go online, and that was a lifeline for a lot of our families. And now we're obviously back open, and we're going to the West End again. We sold out 2 West End shows because parents and kids are just desperate to get back to what they love doing. So that's this year and next year, and yeah, loads of exciting plans. And yeah, so that was a whistle stop tour. That was 22 years digested into 3 minutes.
Super condensed. That was great. Yeah, thank you, Denise. That was really cool. So I get, your story is quite unique, I guess, at the point where Dragon's Den became involved, as you say, that sort of catapulted. How difficult was it to, as you say, you want to maintain steady growth, right? So it doesn't become, so I guess it runs away from you, and you want to maintain quality. Was that quite a challenge to sort of rein that in, I guess, sort of keep hold of it so it doesn't sort of keep mushrooming?
Yes and no. I think in the early days you can get quite excited when someone wants to buy into your brand, and I'm pretty sure every franchisor would tell you that they have made the odd mistake. Yeah, you need to make sure. We are really, really particular now. Well, we have been for a long time, but that person's got to be right for our brand, and our brand has got to be right for them. They call franchising a business marriage, and it's exactly that. We have got to work together. We've got to, collaborate with ideas. We've got to respect each other, and trust each other. That's a really massive part of franchising as a marriage, is trusting each other. So yeah, yes and no. I've said no to quite a few people. I'm quite happy to say no if I think it's not right for them and it's not right for us. And like I don't want to see anyone have to lose money and close a business down, and likewise it's not good for our brand or the students if something closes down. So no, we've been quite particular about who we bring into our network.
That makes sense. Yeah, as you say, you treat it like a family almost, right? It's
absolutely.
You're putting a lot of trust into them. They're representing your name and your brand.
Yeah, and they've got a massive responsibility, as I said before. We are so blessed and privileged to be part of these young people's journey. And you can't get that wrong. You've got to be totally committed and passionate about that. Absolutely.
So you mentioned, I mean, everyone makes mistakes, whether it's in business or just, we're all humans, right? It's going to happen. Was there a particular challenge or mistake? Mistake's the wrong word, I think, because I think, it's just life. You're gonna be human, and you're experimenting with new things, and the franchise is brand new. Was there a particular sort of lesson that you'd learned that you'd always like to sort of pass on to anyone who might be in your shoes down the line? Is there anything that really stands out as something that you overcame and you were like, I looking back, if only I'd had this information beforehand?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. But I think just never ever be scared or shy to ask for help. Never be scared to admit that you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I've like to think that I'm quite good at surrounding myself with really good people and people that are much better than me. You know, and I'm quite good at spotting talent. And when I see talent, I know how to sort of, you know, nurture that talent and give them an opportunity, because people love opportunities to progress, you know, in their career. And it's just great, again, for your self-esteem if someone tells you you're good at something. Going back to my gymnastic teacher, who'd always said never hide a light under a bushel, and he made me demonstrate, because I was so good at gymnastics, which I hated at first because I was mortified. But actually, before I knew it, I was becoming a coach and I was coaching young people. So just never be scared to admit that you don't know the answer. Always ask questions. Always surround yourself with good people, and don't beat yourself up if you make a mistake, because as you just said, James, we're all human. We do make mistakes, you know, we do maybe error of judgment sometimes, but don't beat yourself up about it. Just pick yourself up and move on, really.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Actually, a number of the people I've spoken to, I think if you have that mindset where you can not be arrogant enough to think that you know it all, and then you surround yourself by experts, right? You
Yeah.
Denise, will have expertise in certain areas, and then you bring in people into your business, and that helps it grow, doesn't it? I think that's a really
The
important
team
message.
around me are just absolutely amazing. I can't thank them enough. They're just so good. And I've had a lot of my team have basically been with me from day one, a lot of them. So I think that shows that hopefully they like working for our brand. And loyalty, but it's a two-way loyalty. If someone shows you loyalty, you show it back, and that's what makes a long-term relationship and longevity of the relationship. So yeah, really proud that most of our franchisees all re-sign. You know, most of our franchisees are all on their second, if not third contract, and that's a great testament, because if they hated the franchise, they would get first opportunity to get out is when your initial agreement runs out. And as I say, most of our network and head office team, they've been with me over 15 years. Some of them have been with me since day one, but most of them over 15 years.
In terms of finding those new people who want to take on a Razzamataz franchise, do they tend to come from word of mouth, because obviously you cover a well-known brand now, or initially were there certain advertising channels that you would use, like the franchise directories? How did you sort of source those people that have interest? Or sometimes, I guess, as well, I've spoken to people where actually parents who were sending their kids, and they actually sort of they really attached themselves, and they thought, actually this could be for me because it could work with my work-life balance.
Mainly internally, to be honest. Exactly what you're saying, because a lot of teachers, majority of our network taught for us at some point, whether that was in the UK or overseas internationally for 2A. They've all taught for us at some point, and like you say, they already know the brand, they love the brand, they trust the brand, they know what our ethos is, what our values are. And that's half the battle. If seeing a cold advert, you don't really know who Razzamataz are, or who the people behind Razzamataz are, what their values are. So it is generally word of mouth and people that have already worked for us, to be honest, is how we sort of grow our family.
Okay. And as the business has grown, how do you sort of maintain that sort of visibility across the different locations, and is that easy to do? Have you implemented sort of structures or softwares or systems in place so you can have sort of a clear, as a franchisor and your team, can you have sort of clear view of how things are performing based on location?
Yeah, you mean like sort of quality control and brand compliance? Yeah, we do audits every term. So it's a really thorough, really strict audit. Obviously, when it comes to GDPR, safeguarding, everything like that's done internally in our head office every term. But we've got quite a slick procedure now, so it's not too much of a headache for us or the franchisee. And yes, we have our own software where all the franchisees are all on the same software, so it's easy enough for us to go in and have a look at how they're doing, what areas they need, you know, support in and help with. It comes to maybe marketing a certain age group, etc.
Actually, that was the question I was going to ask, actually. So I guess you sort of help give those franchisees the tools to market themselves, or if they're struggling to recruit for their classes, is that something that you help sort of empower them with, the sort of advice and the the learnings that you've had over the years?
Yeah. So our responsibility is to provide them with the tools and the training and the know-how. Ultimately, they have to go out locally and get their own students, but obviously we do a lot of training with them. So we're always doing social media training. That's termly. That's a minimum of 3 or 4 times a year. We have teamed up with high-profile coaches like Adam Stott and big business events. So they then automatically get invited to their events, and they're massive on social media. We pay for things like Trustist and Google My Business, so they can tap into that and get the support with that. We do all the marketing templates, so all they have to do is just personalize it locally for them. We do working with schools, how to get school workshops. We cover a whole spectrum of sort of, marketing know-hows and tips, and PR as well. PR is so valuable, and sometimes that's underestimated.
Yeah.
How valuable PR can be, because it's much nicer than a cold advert. You have to do the cold adverts, but the PR behind it and the story about your students that have developed in confidence, or they maybe got a part in their school play because they come to Razzamataz and it's given them more confidence. So all of that is, it's warming to the Razzamataz family and making that a local family.
That makes sense. And from a less sort of, I guess, boring point of view, or like the more sort of logistical point of view, how does it work with Razzamataz in terms of the franchise model? Is that, I presume there's like an upfront fee, and then from you guys, do you take a percentage at source of transactions, or do you pay like a monthly sort of rolling fee? I know sometimes franchises have different ways of working it. Is that something you could tell us and could share?
Yeah, it's pretty standard. Most franchisees will take a management fee, and for that you're getting the use of the brand name, the territory, the know-how, the constant training, the support. So they've all got access to a support manager, they've all got access to refresher training all the time. So that's obviously part of what you pay your management fee for, which is just a standard flat rate, which is pretty, if you follow the sort of BFA code of ethics, it should be pretty standard practice across every franchise, really.
Okay. And I presume most of the franchises take sort of payments through your system online. Sometimes we've spoken to some franchises where they say sometimes they have like offline payments, and then there's sort of a trust. There's an element of trust there, because obviously they have to report in how that's going through the business. Is that something you've encountered, or has it never really been an issue in terms of parents paying with cash and then they've got to put it through the franchise and then it's got to be filtered back up so you have visibility in how that's been handled? Or is that not something that you've come across as a challenge?
We pretty much only deal with direct debits now. That's pretty much all the only transaction we do now. Okay.
And then in terms of the business support that you've mentioned, you say you're a really big believer in sort of leaning on the experts. I guess, is that, as you mentioned, you sort of let that trickle down to the franchisees as well? So you bring in sort of social media expertise sort of in each other in-house, or do you sort of lean on experts and get them to sort of help liaise?
It's normally external experts, so like Coconut Creatives, so Adam Lovelock, who now owns Coconuts, actually. We use him termly. As I say, big business events as well, they're massive social media experts, so we can tap into all of theirs. So we have quite a few consultants, actually, because some of them have maybe a bit more expertise in Facebook, some of them a bit more expertise in TikTok, and so we try and use quite a few different consultants.
Nice. A couple more questions for me, Denise. One in terms of obviously an admin question, because that's what we do. Do you sort of, as part of your sort of curriculum of learning and the templates you give your franchises, do you sort of give them some advice as well of how to handle their admin? As you will know from your time of running your classes, admin can be a real pain because it sucks up your resources when actually you want to be teaching, or just, so is that something as well that you kind of help them best practice, I guess, of how to handle their admin and how they can sort of reduce
so
their
again,
time?
we work with a really big franchise called Action Coach. You've probably heard of Action Coach. We work with Pauline, who's locally in Cumbria to me. And she works on them on time management, about eating the frog, and not leaving the job that you hate to the never. We were working just before Christmas on our 90-day business plans. So yeah, all of that encompasses sort of top tips on how to get on top of your administration alongside the software that we've got. obviously that work-life balance. If anyone ever finds the magic key, will you let me know and tell me, because it is difficult. You know, most of our franchisees, including myself, all have young children. So you're juggling being, you know, a mum at home as well, or a dad at home, or a carer at home. So it is just being organised, just trying your very best to be organised, have a good sort of diary for the day. So like we have, like, you might have a social media Monday. Schedule your posts, or you might schedule your posts on a Sunday night. You know, the beauty of our business is it's flexible. You know, you might want to work on a Sunday night because you want to have a lie-in on Monday, which a lot of our franchisees like a Monday off, because obviously they work all day on a Saturday. So it's the flexibility as well. But again, it's going back to that, don't beat yourself up if one day didn't go to plan, because it doesn't always go to plan. But yeah, we try and get them to organise their week. You know, they might have a Money Monday, and that's where they do their finance, you know, and sort of have a little diary for the week ahead to stay as organised as is humanly possible.
Exactly. And then I guess the sort of last thing I wanted to ask Denise was sort of with Razzamataz, and I guess, as you say, the last couple of years have been challenging. Fantastic you managed to move some of it onto online, which, you know, but nonetheless, classes obviously took a real hit. So if we move away from that, we won't think about the bad stuff, and we're thinking about the future. And you mentioned at the start of our conversation about you have exciting plans. What's sort of like your next sort of couple of years? What might they ideally look like without any pandemicness going on for Razzamataz and for you, Denise?
So going back to that last question, actually, so we've obviously got intranet, which most franchise networks have or should have, and it's like a library of resources. So when I say organised, we've kind of organised everything for them. So they've got access to everything they would need, like employment contracts, GDPR contracts. So that's the beauty of buying into a franchise. All of that is already done. And that can take years and years, and it can take thousands of pounds to build that library of resources. So all of that is there behind the website. The next couple of years, just, you know, we've got really exciting plans to continue to grow. We've just launched our own teacher training platform. So we're going to help our principals train their teams so that we're all aligned. We've all been inducted to the same level, got the same ethos and values. It will also be for non-Razzamataz teachers, which means then we've got a bigger portfolio of teachers for our franchisees to tap into, and some of them might want to become franchisees one day in the future. As I said, we've got 2 West End shows coming up, which we're really excited about, because the students had nothing. We actually had a big show in Disney planned. So we went to Disney in 2017, and it was amazing. Wow. We had over 300 students leading the Disney parade with our own song. Disney don't normally let you play your own bespoke song, but we got it approved by Disney Performing Arts, which isn't often done. Nice. That was just amazing. And then in 2020, we should have went because we were celebrating our 20th anniversary, but obviously it didn't happen. And we were meant to go back to the West End. It didn't happen. So that is massive for us, because our students have really, really missed that. They really need it. So we're going back to Shaftesbury Theatre. Well, I'm saying going back, it's our first time at Shaftesbury Theatre actually in December of this year and February of next year. So that's it. That's a big plan for us. And we've got ambitious plans to really, really grow the network in the next 5 to 10 years. We just want to grow brand awareness, you know, just spread the Razzamataz love. I've always said to my husband that every town and city not needs a Razzamataz, but deserves a Razzamataz. Because again, I just know the life-changing benefits that performing arts gave me, and I just want to, that's going to be our legacy as well as our own charity. So we have our own charity. I said at the beginning of the conversation, I had to drop out of college. So I set up our own charity called the Future Fund, and all our principals do crazy stuff every year, like jumping out of planes and Tough Mudder. All of the students and families get involved in PJ Day. We have a pajama day once a year. So there's always money in that charity account, and we have an addition once a year, and it goes towards supporting a few of our students onto the performing arts career. So that's a massive legacy for us. So just continuing to grow the brand and grow our legacy.
Wow. Thanks so much, Denise. Oh, I think your infectious enthusiasm for it just really carries through, to be honest. And you can tell, I love how, even like you say, it goes right back to your roots, right? And you're just kind of, you're giving back, but like you you're just so
I
focused
think
on
it's so important when you get to a certain level that you do give back as much as possible, and that's the whole idea behind our charity, behind keeping our fees as low as we possibly can, so that as many families can access it, making the payments monthly direct debit, because it helps people budget, so they're not having to find quite a big chunk of money at the start of every term. So yeah, it's really important that we give back and offer as many opportunities as we can.
Brilliant. Thanks, Denise. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.